Well, very good, very good. Delvin says he's been on the hunt for his wife Mimi's G-spot for years and needs help in finding it. I have a feeling, Dr. Oz, it's not at Nordstrom's.
No, it's not. Is Delvin here? Where's
Delvin. I'm right here.
Delvin,
Is that your wife next to you?
Yes.
Yes. this is
Mimi,
my
right?
wife, Mimi.
Yes.
So talk to me a little bit about how you try to find it.
Well, we have 5 boys and 1 girl, so that should tell you enough. I've been trying to really find it.
You found something.
You know, so I'm just here for your help. You know, I'm very curious if the G-spot really exists.
Right.
And if it does, you know, help a brother find it.
Right.
All right. I'm gonna help brother find a little bit. So this is a pelvic cutaway. Trying to keep it clean here. All right. There's the rectum back here. There's the uterus. The uterus is in here, and there's the bladder there. I'm gonna take my Q-tip, very medically point out to where it roughly is. So it's inside the front lip, about finger distance in.
Okay.
This motion will usually get you close. But can I give you some advice here? It's not one little spot. It's not the size of a dime, 2 inches in, where you can touch it. The G-spot was named after a guy named Grafenberg, who described that there were places where nerves come together in the front of the uterus.
Okay.
And the reality is, it's where the prostate would be if the woman was a man. And when you stimulate the prostate, it's the same kind of excitement that's often created as well. So it's not just one place. It's where all these different nerves come together. And you actually have to go looking for it. And not everyone has a spot that they can find. So, Mimi, you've got to be part of this equation.
Okay.
And I got to say this for all the women out there. Since so few women are really having orgasms, and it is at Nordstrom's for a lot of folks, because I'm not finding it anywhere else, you got to find it yourself first.
Okay.
And I know that's a difficult message to swallow because it puts the burden more on women. But if at least you can find it, then you can help the guy begin to identify it. And
How do I know if I found it?
I think it's a place where you self-stimulate yourself. You can use tools, your hands, and you got to work at it. And it usually takes about 10 or 15 minutes to even begin to warm it up and stimulate. That's how long it takes. It really...
Practice.
We're good.
Most guys don't recognize the simplest things about improving a female orgasm. And you know, you don't get that taught in medical school.
No, you don't.
Actually, there are classes that are taught in this. Just understand.
What's the one thing a guy at home should take away from this? I'll be listening closely.
Most women have the equivalent of a G-spot.
They do.
Yes, and you have to excite that part of the female anatomy. It's not a button. You don't just push on some spot.
Okay.
When the prostate, which is, by the way, very sensitive as well, was not created in the female body, those same nerves move to the front of the vagina. So if you put your finger in, being very graphic, and sort of go like this, that entire area, about an inch or 2 above where you enter, is generally sensitive. The problem is that about 1/3 of women have never had an orgasm. I mean, Donnie, we have a sexual famine in America, in part because people haven't spent the time, and it takes time, like anything else in life, to learn how to excite each other. And so for women, I got to say something, please, do not trust a guy to do this. They don't know how to do it. We never learned how to do this, so we can't even study our own bodies. So if you haven't been able to teach yourself to pleasure yourself, and you have to at least start there in order to figure out how you can get an orgasm. Then you got to literally take the guy by the hand and teach them how to do it. So the number of orgasms you have, for example, and if you're not having sex the way you normally could or should be having sex, then it means actually that you're probably disconnecting from the person you're with. One of the major reasons for divorce is actually people losing the lust for each other. But it also means that over time we can predictably say that you'll probably not live as long and you won't have the vitality you want. You're better off being fat and in good shape than thin and in bad shape.
And back to the sex. Dr. Oz says to have more of it.
Because, this is not just about living a long life. It's about having the gusto, the bounciness that you want in life. And as that begins to ebb away, you become frail. And that is what most Americans fear. Welcome back. You may want to send the kids out of the room because we're about to have a frank discussion about sex. Now, I'm taking the words undercover to a whole new level because I'm literally going under the covers with married couples in their bedrooms to find out what they think is missing in their sex lives. Here's what happened when I surprised some unsuspecting couples. I chose 4 couples that have all been married for more than 10 years. None of the couples know that I'm coming. Hey, how are you? Let's face it, if you're going to explore the state of sex and marriage in America, then you got to go undercover. Under the covers. How has marriage affected your sex life?
I can't think right now.
You can't think? So what's the big change that's happened in sex in your life since you got married?
The sleep patterns changed, we lost our energy, it was just, the sex became less and less frequent after that.
we're not the way we used to be.
As far as intimate, it's hard because my husband has his own business. I'm trying to do things for myself and try and keep the balance.
What would you think you might want to do to spice it up a little bit?
I would say just have it more often would be fine.
Creativity.
You know, sometimes you put on a nice nightgown.
I don't think there's any planning involved. It's very much an opportunistic exercise.
So, do you have any questions for me about sex?
How come it gets harder and harder?
Are you married?
I am, 25 years.
So what do you do to spice things up?
Just tell me privately, you whisper in my ear. What do you wish Doug would do differently?
Mysterious.
You know what? I actually think you guys have a lot in common.
All right.
This could work. Listen, thank you very much for inviting me in. I appreciate it. I know how sensitive it is to come into your most intimate place and share these stories.
Right.
I'm going to leave you guys alone.
Okay.
All
All right?
right.
Pleasure.
Thank
Take care.
you.
All right. Go get it, Tiger. Take care. All right, all our couples are joining us. Thank you very much. Let me intrude into your lives. So, Dina, were you surprised when I showed up?
Oh, I was completely surprised. I still can't believe you were at my door. Am I bad?
So, Stephen, did it have any impact at all? Any difference in your amorous affairs, your intimacy?
Yeah, I think you should make more house calls. You've been very busy lately.
Well, today I'm revealing sex solutions to obstacles every couple faces with gynecologist Dr. Lauren Stryker. Dr. Stryker, welcome again to the show.
Thank you.
Talk us a little bit about how can marriage affect a couple's sex life?
You know, marriage has a sex cycle. When you first get married, it's all about sex all the time. And then, of course, you get into the baby-making years, and then it's sex with a purpose. And then after that, the bedroom isn't someplace where you have sex. It's someplace where you just want to have a good night's sleep, desperately. And then by the time you get around to thinking, oh my gosh, we never have sex anymore, you've forgotten how. Your body doesn't remember how, your brain doesn't remember how, and even if you still like the person you're married to, which isn't always the case, suddenly it's not on your to-do list.
Yeah. Well, I know a lot of couples come to us with this concern. So today we're going to talk about these obstacles. And the first obstacle that all couples face is boredom. Be honest about it, boredom comes up. So that must be something you hear about frequently.
You know, it's not like a patient comes in and says sex is boring. What they do say is, I'm just not interested in having sex. You know, when you think about it, if you have cornflakes every single morning for breakfast, after 10 years, you don't even want to look at that cornflake anymore.
Right.
And then suddenly someone puts a chocolate chip pancake on your plate and you're thinking, well, you know, that's kind of interesting. So it's really about breaking the monotony. So even though they might not verbalize it's boring, it's boring.
All right, now the second obstacle that all couples face is that you can't have intercourse. And this is a more serious problem.
It really is.
Because there are lots of reasons why couples just can't be together, even if they want to be together. What do you have for them for advice?
Well, basically, there's two separate reasons why someone can't have intercourse. One is they can't have intercourse. A guy might have an erectile dysfunction. He might have a bad back. The woman might not be able to have intercourse because of endometriosis or radiation changes from cancer. There's all kinds of medical reasons that couples just cannot have intercourse.
So what are they going to do?
Well, you got to do something that's not intercourse. And I think that's so important is people think of sex being equal to intercourse. And it's not. In fact, sometimes the best sex people have is when they get intercourse off the table. You can have intimacy, you can have passion, you can have incredible orgasms without actually having intercourse. It really takes the pressure off people. They just have to communicate it.
Now, let me ask you, as an OBGYN, bringing your professionalism into this,
Yeah.
how many times a week do you think folks ought to be intimate with each other?
I don't think that there is a set time. I think clearly we know that if you're not having sex on a regular basis, that part of your brain just pretty much goes into hibernation. And if you think about times in your life when you had a lot of sex, the more sex you have, the more sex you want, because of course your brain is thinking about it. So while it's different for every couple and everyone has their own rhythm, it has to be on a regular basis. And that also means doing it even if you're not in the mood, because sometimes you just have to wake up that part of the brain.
All right, now the third obstacle is a big one, and it comes up a lot of times, especially married couples. You've got too little time to spend on foreplay. So a little bit of advice for everybody on this.
Well, foreplay is so important because, of course, women are not good to go, ready to go every single second. But I think what's really important is foreplay, which means you have to get the sexual side of your brain going and turn off the side of your brain that says, if I don't go grocery shopping, no one's going to have dinner ever.
And you say you've got behind curtain number one over here, the biggest aphrodisiac to put women in the mood. Is this correct? I don't want to misstate what you promised.
This is the Viagra for women.
Are you ready? It's a vacuum. It's a vacuum. So why a vacuum?
Nothing makes a woman hotter than to come home and find that the guy has vacuumed the house, has dinner on the table. It's true. Suddenly she's not distracted. She's not angry. She's ready. She's ready for action.
Thank you very much, Dr. Stryker. To all my couples, thank you so much for letting us invade your privacy and share your stories with us.